Beneath bright moonlight, across waters deep, upon mountains high, your love I keep. Minds entwined, two kindred souls, transcending time, your heart I hold. Before life, beyond death, cosmically fixed, sisters eternal, fate's purest gift. Hi, I'm Desiree.
And I'm Mariah.
We're two sisters with a love of storytelling
and the paranormal. And you're listening to
As the Crow Flies. Hey everyone, so now that we're 5 episodes in, we wanted to formally introduce ourselves and share some of our inspiration behind our interest in the topic of our podcast, which is like the weird, the cryptic, the unknown, the mysterious,
spooky,
les spookies. And so for those of us who don't have the pleasure of knowing us personally, I'm Desiree.
And I'm Mariah. I'm the oldest.
And the shortest. And so we're sisters. We're 14 months and 1 day of different in age. So as Mariah said, she is the elder. And growing up, we've had some experiences that have sort of shaped us into who we are today. And that also kind of inspired our curiosity into this weird realm that we find ourselves drawn to. And we wanted to share some of those stories with you today, sort of as a preface to the listener stories that we revealed. And we did put a plea out there to send us your stories because we would love to share them.
Yes. So you can send those to asthecrowflies.pod@gmail.com.
So we hope that you enjoy hearing our stories and learning about us today. And we look forward to reading the stories that you guys send in to us.
Yes, I love just hearing and learning more about what other people have experienced or been a part of, heard secondhand from other family members. It makes the world feel a little bit less small when, we're from a smallish town, but I grew up in Dallas part-time and then Vermont part-time, so a bit different, but having that community of other like-minded folks, it always feels nice, and it's just super interesting to know what else is out there.
I agree. And I feel like, I feel like this community does feel small in a sense that it's like, I guess in my experience is like, I'm always kind of cautious of who I reveal this side of myself to, because it could go either way, right? Like it could go, people are like, oh yeah, and like they're really interested in that stuff too, and they agree. Or it could be like, you're weird.
What the hell is wrong with you? Yep. I feel that. And so, I'm not the most social butterfly person that you're going to run into, but still have those reservations of like, okay, I've kind of like talked to this person, have this acquaintance. Do I let it out now? Or do I just keep that normal mask on? Yeah. So I guess I wanted to start from like my earliest memory of spirits being mentioned, that the kind of birthplace in my life, if you will. I don't remember the specifics about, what happened to cause this conversation, but that memory is of Desiree and I in our mom's house trailer. The when we were probably up visiting for the summer. I don't think I lived up here yet, but I have plenty of memories of just being generally spooked in that house. We lived pretty close, like not right next door, but walking distance to a graveyard down that same road. It was relatively isolated on the bottom of the slope of a mountain, and the vibes were just all over the place. So I remember bringing it up to my mom and like voicing that fear of just like, I don't know what's around, but something is unsettling me. So I remember telling our mom that I was scared. I couldn't pinpoint what it was, but I was scared of something. And I remember her kind of sitting us down and just casually teaching us how to advocate for ourselves in a way, um, towards spirits or, you know, towards the unseen. And she pretty much just told us anytime we had that feeling of unease or we didn't feel like we were alone and it didn't feel friendly necessarily or we couldn't get a vibe off of it, she told us to just stand up, speak with confidence, and tell whatever it was that was in our space that they were not welcome if they were going to scare us, that they were allowed to stay in our home if they were going to respect our space and, you know, coexist peacefully. But basically, if they were not going to be nice, they couldn't stay. And I, like, to this day, still feel kind of silly holding on to that, but also feel a lot of power from that. And have even kind of passed that advice on to my son, who had somewhat recently just mentioned feeling something off in our house and nothing that I've picked up on. And we kind of talked about it. And I told him pretty much the same thing is claim your space
Mhm.
and, you know, state what is and isn't okay.
Yeah,
Um, haven't followed up, so I couldn't tell you if he's had any more of those feelings, but I hope not hearing from him is good news. He
right.
generally talks to me a lot. So hopefully that kind of helped clear that space or at least quieted things down. So maybe they hang out when he's at school.
Yeah, and it's so funny how our brains work because I have a similar memory from our childhood, but with a different adult. And so you know, your story is from our mom, and then we have our dad's side, which is it's a Mexican family. We've got like a very strong Mexican matriarch of the
Mhm,
family, and I just remember when we were kids, we so for context, her and my grandfather owned a pretty large building
mhm.
in
A
Dallas.
warehouse.
Yeah, a warehouse. And she ran a business out of it. And then they built sort of a living space in the back portion of it. And it was a pretty big, pretty creepy building. Like there was dungeons, literally. I don't know
Yes.
what else you'd call them.
I
Uh
yeah, I remember just referring to them as the dungeons or the jail cells.
yeah.
I never took a close look at them because they were just not it.
Well, and they had that terrifying warthog thing in the back.
I thought I made that up in my head. Yeah, it
No.
was like a mounted boar's head something.
Yeah, so scary. It was just these huge, sort of like prison style rolling heavy cement and cast iron doors
Mhm,
that close on. So, anyways, real creepy vibes there, right? And uh, I remember our grandmother just like out of the blue, not necessarily shouting, but just very firmly claiming her space. And she would say, like, this is my house. You're not welcome here. Get out of here. And I asked her, I'm like, what are you doing? And I think she didn't want to scare us, so she didn't really get into it, but she just
mhm.
kind of was like, if something is scaring you, you need to make it known that they're making you uncomfortable, and make it known that those feelings are not welcome, because this is your space.
Mhm.
And so I think that's kind of what piqued my interest in like spirits and otherworldly things, was just her openness to recognizing things were
Mhm.
there, um and communicating with them, even if it was as simple as, this is my space, you're not welcome here.
Right. It's funny, like, I reached out to mom to confirm because I was like, "My memory is not the most reliable,
Trauma.
thanks to so many things." Yeah. But, and she's like, "Yeah, no, I remember telling you guys that." But as you're talking about grandma and that kind of, like, almost like shaky confidence, like
Yeah.
standing your ground even though you are, like, shitting your pants
Yeah.
almost. I can hear those words coming out of her, and I don't have that memory, but I very much, like, don't doubt those types of interactions that we had with, you know, more or less, the women in our family.
Yeah.
And I know that we mostly in Texas, like, with our grandma and dad and grandpa, were raised, quote, unquote, "Christian." We were not, like, super
Devout.
devoted or
Yeah.
devout or anything, like, we would go to church occasionally,
Mhm.
um, praying at meals was normal, and, like,
I think
talking
we
about
did Bible study, or like youth Bible, something I
yeah.
remember.
Yeah, youth groups and then going to,
Yes.
like, church with grandma on Sunday on those, like, the bigger church where, like, you had to dress up.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then, just kinda casually hearing about, like, stories from the Bible and miracles from Jesus, demons and angels,
Yeah.
and so, like, already kind of had that introduction to otherworldly happenings, and so I nowadays am more agnostic, feeling, like, very spiritual still, and I don't believe that, our physical beings are the only things that exist in this,
Yeah, for sure.
uh,
There's gotta
earth,
be.
universe, wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily follow any, like, specific religious beliefs. I just, in my soul, I guess, know that there's gotta be more based on my personal experiences, based on stories that I've heard, from other podcasts, from friends, from family, and so I don't believe, that, like, the end of our life, I guess, is really the end,
Yeah.
and, you know, there are, in my mind, almost certainly, invisible forces and spirits and
Mm.
things interacting with us day to day, that we just can't explain right now.
Yeah, eh, and I share the similar beliefs, right, Mariah? Of like not necessarily Christianity, but not also saying that there isn't something else,
Mhm,
And I guess my take or my stand on things is that our bodies and our minds just give off so much energy that
mhm,
there's no way that that energy just dissipates and ceases to exist when our physical bodies stop. And
mhm,
so then I think, um, why we see some of the things that we see are, or that we hear about, or, I'm thinking of residual energy or active energy and things like that. Like, there's just so much unknown about the energy that our physical bodies and our mind possess, that there's no way that that just disappears because we're no longer alive.
right, and, like, even in a scientific sense, I kind of go back to, like, the law of conservation of energy or the law of conservation of matter, um, different laws, but basically stating, like, that energy and matter cannot be created or destroyed, only
Wow.
transformed from one form to another. So, I
Yep.
mean, that is proven in a scientific kind of like numbers and calculations sense.
Hmm.
But I mean, our brain alone is still, there are so many things that we don't understand
Yes.
about like how it works. And we know a lot, but I don't doubt that there is so much more left to learn that we
Hmm.
just haven't discovered yet. I mean, think of kind of going back to Diet Love Past, talking about like wind as an invisible
Right.
force, thinking, you know, it has that kind of power to affect tangible objects and to move and to have an impact on things that we can see.
Yeah.
Who's to say what other invisible forces we just haven't put a name to yet because they haven't been studied? We may be far, far away from any kind of spiritual energy research, you know, but that to me, that's not a definitive answer to say, well, it doesn't exist. We
Right.
just don't understand it.
Exactly. I think that's a really good way to put it. It's like the same thing that we've talked about with some of these other beings that we've explored already, right? It's like there's not proof, that it does exist, and there's not proof that it doesn't exist, but there's something weird happening, and
Mhm.
how do you explain it?
Yep. And I that kind of falls along the lines of like parallel realities or like different realms of existence. And, you know, are there little pockets and tears in the kind of barriers between these different layers? Who knows? So much of it sounds like so sci-fi and like fantastical,
Right. Yeah.
um, like that it couldn't possibly be a thing. But I don't feel like it would be right to count anything out, really.
Right. Yeah.
I
Because we don't
I
have
don't
proof
believe we're the
enough
only. Mhm.
to say it doesn't exist.
And I mean, if it doesn't, and I find out in several millennia after my energy's gone and I'm a little ghosty somewhere, then I can just kinda go, "Ah, I guess I was wrong about that."
So we're gonna kind of bring you guys through our experiences with the spirits and the supernatural and the paranormal, hopefully in a chronological order from our lives. That's not to say that we won't go off in a tangent or two. So here we go. So my earliest experience with spirits, aside from the story I shared of remembering my grandmother talking to spirits, it happened when I was 5, in the late 1900s, 1999, um, and my grandma Hilda had passed away. It was really awful. I remember I was so little, and we were with our mom for the summer, and I thought I heard my mom laughing. And so, I kind of wake up, and Mariah and I shared bunk beds. And so I stumbled down the hallway, and I'm like expecting to see my mom, just laughing. And she was actually crying really intensely. And I just remember her telling me, she's gone, she's gone. And she was talking about her mom. And so her mom's name was Hilda Jean Pierce. And she had passed away suddenly and unexpectedly in the night. And in the weeks following her passing, I had these really crazy, vivid dreams of floating in our bedroom.
Mhm,
And it was so bizarre because everything in our room looked the same. It looked exactly the same, except for our ceiling was like infinite. There was no top to our ceiling. And so I just remember like floating out of my bed. And so, as I said, Ryan and I had bunk beds. I had the bottom bunk, she had the top bunk. And I just floated out of my bed, and I floated out around her bunk, and I was just kind of hovering in our room, looking down on our room, and I could see Maya sleeping. And I went down to her and I woke her up and got her to come and float with me. Um, and we
I
would
wish
just,
I remembered this.
oh my gosh, it was
Oh.
magical. Like, even
Mhm.
talking about it now, my body just feels weightless. We were just floating and we were looking like way down on our room and we were just way above it. And and then we would float back down and we would go back to our beds, and I swear when I would wake up from that dream, it felt as if I like fell back into my pillow and into my bed again. And
Mhm.
into my adult life, I can still vividly remember this dream. And when I was a teenager, which I'll talk about a little bit later, I had my first and only ever experience with a Ouija board, and my grandmother Hilda came through, and uh, she confirmed that she was finally able to hold us in the afterlife. And
Mhm.
she was pretty sick when we were kids. I know I said her death was unexpected, but she had diabetes and she had a trachea from years of heavy smoking. And,
Mhm.
she couldn't do the things that a grandparent would want to do with with their grandchildren necessarily. And so she took advantage of that after she had no longer was held back by her physical body.
Mhm.
And, she invited us up and would hold us and play with us in her dreams, which I just think is so beautiful.
Right. Yeah, I have, the few memories that I do have of being with her and kind of visiting her, were all very fond memories,
Yeah.
and so just knowing that we had that kind of guardian angel in a sense, or just that positivity around us and wanting to continue to share that love beyond the mortal realm, as
Yeah.
as cryptic as that sounds.
And the
But yeah.
guardian angel piece will come back up to
Mhm.
more in the Ouija board experience that I'll share.
Yee.
Yeah.
Funny mentioning dreams, like I said, I don't remember that specifically as much as I wish I did. Um, for as long as I can remember, though, I have had inconsequential but very weird feelings, like, around dreams. I remember the first, I guess, like, déjà vu type experience I had was when it must have been summer because we were at Hope's daycare, and we were going swimming, and I just had this flash of a memory or, like, future happening of this new kid joining the daycare and, like, a flash of bright red hair, and we were all swimming, and, um, as that was happening, having that kind of, like, I know what's coming up in the next, like, couple of seconds, like, it was never um a long period of time, and like I said, it was never about anything seemingly of importance, just kind of, like, those moments happening and me recognizing that, like, I've done this, I've seen this, I've experienced this before,
Yeah.
and the only way I can explain it is, like, must have been in a dream, and I've continued to have those experiences through my adulthood, um, which I have to say makes longer dreams that have intense feelings feel very scary because then I start to think, is this the moment that I'm having a dream of significance? Is
Right.
this actually going to happen?
Hmm.
Uh,
Is this a premonition of sorts?
yeah, I mean, most notably with our cousin. I
Mhm.
won't go into too many details there, but I mean, I had a very um, just shock to the system kind of dream, that really scared me and thankfully did not come to fruition in that way. Um, but I've continued to just have those deja vu moments, and it is such a trip, still to just sit there and just have this flash of like, I know this. And
Right.
what does this mean? I wish I knew what this meant. And cool, but unsettling. Like, I just want to know more.
Yeah.
And then so sticking with our chronological um, theme, I guess. My first real memory of an actual like visible spirit would be, I believe I would have been in first grade. Throughout my elementary school, I can remember what grade I was in based on which apartment we lived in. And so this was Jim Drive for any of those who know us in Texas. um, we were just, I mean, we watched some scary movies in that house too. That's when we watched The Leprechaun
Oh my
and
gosh.
hiding under the table in the living room or in
Yes.
the kitchen. Um,
And I still will not watch that movie. And I hate Chucky.
yep. I'm not as bad with Chucky. I don't have as clear memories like watching that. It's like creepy,
He's
but
why I hate dolls.
the Leprechaun is
Ugh.
no. But so in that apartment, I remember being in the living room, and between the living room and the kitchen was like a partition wall, and in the middle was the like a doorway without a door to just walk between the areas. Um, and so then on the kitchen side of that partition was also a little bathroom, and it was further off to the side so you couldn't see into the bathroom from the partition. And then on the opposite side was a wall with a window looking outside from the kitchen point of view. And we were just hanging out, sitting in the living room, doing who knows what. I don't know, talking, doing kindergarten and first grade shit. But I can very clearly remember seeing a something, a like transparent figure, not like a blur or anything. It had a human form to it or like shape to it. Um, just kind of casually walk
Mhm.
from the right side, which is where that wall with the window would have been, walk past that door, going towards the bathroom. A couple seconds later, seeing it walk right back past the door area and out the kitchen wall window, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Where else would it have gone? Um, there was no interaction with it. There was no, I mean, I didn't get any vibes off of it, good or bad. Just it was there. And it, I mean, some weird stuff happened when we were growing up, but I know it wasn't a random person in our house. It
Yeah.
was very clearly a spirit
I
of some
remember you
kind.
saying you could like see through him also. Like you
Mhm.
could see the features of the walls and things like that, like through this person.
Yeah, which just kind of like it just added to that um fear and mystery of like what the hell is going on, and who's gonna believe me? I'm a first grader.
You came and
uh
told me. I believed
yeah,
you.
I mean, look at us now. And so that, as far as actual memorable experiences, is the first time that I can ever remember encountering a ghost or a spirit. And part of me feels like it must have been like a residual type of thing if it's just kind of walking back and
Yeah.
forth in a known like pathway of that apartment, never kind of acknowledged, looked at us,
Mm.
interacted with us or anything. um and now that we're talking about Jim Drive, it actually reminded me of other happenings of like disembodied voices that I would constantly experience um
Outside there,
when I was
I
outside.
remember that.
Yep. I would just kind of be like hanging out. I was more or less like a loner. But so I frequently remember being outside, just kind of doing my own thing. I mean, like Desiree said, it was the late 1900s. Uh, kind of parental supervision was pretty lax, and as long as
Can
we
you even
came home
call it
from
that?
everything, yeah,
Don't
we
leave
were
the apartment
alive
complex. Got
and
it.
we were more or less fed. um, and I would hear like something or someone calling my name, something about a vacuum cleaner, like needing to go vacuum. And so, like, in the moment, thinking, like, oh shit, my dad or, whoever is calling me to come back into the house, like, I forgot to do something. And would constantly like ask or check in with Des and with my dad or whoever else was around. Everybody was like, I didn't call you. I didn't call you. Like, go back outside.
Yeah.
go go do what you're doing. And just always had that, this voice calling, and it didn't feel ominous or anything either, but just caught your attention, caught you off guard. And
Yeah.
I would just kind of like be pulled out of whatever I was doing and like, oh, like when the dog tilts her head. Oh. So yeah, I just kind of, the beginning of my memory is kind of spooky.
Yeah. And
Just unexplainable.
And while our memories are kind of spackled here and there for, I feel like from like 6 to 9 at least. I do remember some little kind of, whether they were just, three young girls kind of getting in each other's heads or actual things
Yeah,
happening. I remember one of the
a mix
apartments
of
we
both.
lived, huh?
A mix of both.
Yeah. I remember one of the apartments that we lived in, and at this time, our stepsister Nicole had joined our lives. And we were in our parents' bedroom watching TV, and our sister Nicole, I think if she saw something out of the corner of her eye, but she was convinced there was a man in our closet. She had seen a man in our closet. And
Mhm.
uh, our Uncle Dell, rest his soul, um, he comes in here in this room, like busts in this room. He's got his tidy whities on,
Oh my god, it was a spectacle.
beer belly out, and he's like, what's going on, girls? What's going on, girls? And Nicole was like hyperventilating. She's like, there's something in our closet. And
Mhm.
Dell just like puffs his chest out, and he opens that closet door, and he's yelling at whatever was in there or what wasn't in there, and he's like,
Right,
you leave these girls alone. And he was just being so tough and so brave for us, and like that just made us feel more comfortable about the situation.
right. But
But we
also to not be dismissed and, like, even if
Yeah,
he was just kind of, like, entertaining us, like, not entertaining to be funny, but just like, "Oh, okay, they think something's
yeah,
in here, I'll make them feel better." Like, having that support was
yes.
always great.
And then there was the other time where the three of us, this was when we lived on in Cunningham, right?
Yeah.
And so the three of us were home alone, and all of a sudden, like, we kept hearing footsteps and like voices outside of our house. And I mean, this was like the not so great part of Irving, so it's very possible that there was actually someone outside,
Right.
but we were terrified. And we were thinking that it was a ghost because we were panicking, and we were calling our parents, and they finally answered, and they're like, what is wrong? And we're like hyperventilating, three hysterical girls. And we're like, we're hearing all these sounds. And they're like, why don't you call the cops? And we're like, well, what are the cops going to do for a ghost?
Yeah.
So,
Also, just,
just
like, their reaction to us, would a cop's reaction be any different? Of just
right.
like, "Why are you calling us?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we going to do about it? They did rush home, and they brought us a bucket of fried chicken.
To ease our minds. Fried chicken will always do that for you.
Yeah. And then I don't know if, these experiences from when we were younger kind of shaped us. and kind of molded us and developed an interest in the paranormal. But some of
Mm-hmm.
some of my best childhood memories are being in Vermont with my sister, with you, Mariah, and we would we would sit on opposite ends of the couch and put our feet facing each other, so our feet were towards each other,
Yep.
and we would watch Ghost Hunters. And whenever things would get really like scary, or like they'd have like a really good piece of evidence where I'm like, oh my gosh, like you can't debunk that. How are you going to debunk that? Like that has to be true. We would
Mm-hmm.
hold each other's foot.
Yep. And it became like a joke but not joke of like if something was getting really serious, we would stick our foot out. Hold my foot,
Hold my foot.
not just reaching for the other's foot, but like I need you to hold me right now. Hold
Yes.
my foot.
Yep. And then I remember when we watched the first Paranormal Activity with mom.
I don't think it was Insidious.
Oh, okay, yeah. You're right. It was Insidious. And our stepdad went to bed because he's like, this is a stupid movie. And me, mom, and you were literally screaming
That you screamed, you scrumped in the
like
living room, shared a wall with
their
mom and
bedroom.
Ed's bedroom.
Yeah, it's actually the room I'm in right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it just, but we've just always had an interest in these things, and who's to say kind of what shaped those interests or not.
Mhm.
But here we are with our own podcast on spooky stuff.
Yep, talking about chupacabras and Baba Yaga,
Yeah.
the
Um,
disembodied voices that we swear are not just in our heads.
yeah, who's to say? And so another experience I had, so I kind of alluded to it earlier with talking about my experience with my grandma Hilda. And so, when I was in high school, I was on a cheerleading team, and we had a fundraiser yard sale at our coach's house. And her dad had just passed. So, we were kind of trying to help her declutter and kind of try to help her cope with losing, her dad. And so she asked us to come help her clear out her house some, and then we could also raise money for our cheerleading uniforms. And then after we did the fundraising at her house, we all had a sleepover together in her living room. And, her father did pass away in that house. And it was we're in rural Vermont. It was a very old
Mhm.
farmhouse that they lived in. And so, you get a bunch of teenage girls together and we're like, let's use a Ouija board. I'm not going to tell the whole story because it is very long. So many crazy things happened with this Ouija board. And through that Ouija board experience, was, the first person to come through the Ouija board was actually my grandma Hilda. And she confirmed, like I said, that was her in my dream. And I had gotten into a car accident. So I was a month into dating my husband. My mom didn't like him because he was my high school boyfriend, and I had a curfew, and she was very strict on curfews. And I was driving her car at the time. I don't remember why. Anyways, I'd barely gotten my license in February. And so I was a new driver, stayed way too late at my husband's house, and was trying to hustle back to get home in time for my curfew. There's no way I was going to make it home. And
Mhm.
mom said, not to take this specific road because it had a notoriously bad frost heave and she didn't want me to bottom out her car. So I had to take a less familiar route home, and ended up kind of falling asleep at the wheel, coming to. All I remember is saw the curve was coming up, and it's a really sharp curve. So I hit the brakes
Mhm.
and my car lost control.
And it's
And
going downhill, isn't it?
yes, and
That's
I should have flipped over and over and over again down this hill. But somehow my hands were not on the wheel, and I just remember seeing the wheel turn. and my car all of a sudden it just like caught the road. I stopped sliding, caught the
Mhm.
road, and it just sent me forward into the ditch. And I just remember like think I'm like, there's no way my wheel should have moved like that. It should not have moved the way it did. So long story short, in this Ouija board session, grandma said that that was her protecting me. And so, you know, when you said guardian angel earlier, yeah, she said, like, yes, I am all of your guardian angel.
Mhm. No, I remember parts of that, but that that bit about Grandma Hilda being there through your car wreck,
Yeah,
I
my
had
own
forgotten,
fault, not an accident.
and it's just it feels really just gives you, like, this warm feeling. I mean, we're all stupid teenagers, but also just knowing that, like, you continue to carry that love with you, and they stay around you. Like, I've always kind of
Yeah,
had that feeling of I even tell my kids now when we lose somebody, like, that we still carry them in our hearts, and I will, like, send a kiss up into the sky or, like, when I'm driving my car because, I don't know, just, like, the feeling of the pressure of the roof of the car on my hand, I'll just kind of, like, raise my hand up
yeah,
and, like, give a little scritch and say, like, "I love you, I miss you," to whoever's on my mind. But I very much have that feeling still of, like, our loved ones being nearby, knowing that we miss them, like, still seeing the love that we have for them, and not really being gone, you know?
yeah.
We can't see them, but the energy never goes away, I don't think.
One of the cheerleaders, her brother had passed away in a pretty big, well known car accident. It took the lives of a few local teenagers, and her brother was one of them. And he came through the board and was communicating with us and knew things about people in their current lives that he would not have known prior to his death. And so it was so weird. It was like, how do you know these things? And I think he said something along the lines of like he can see people, they just can't see him.
Right.
And sitting next to me was one of the cheerleaders, and she was kind of a smaller, more like frail girl. She had some health issues, and she looks at me and she's like, I don't feel good. And all of a sudden, so as our hands are like resting on the planchette, the only way I can describe it is as if someone had like an ice cube in their mouth
Mhm.
and was just slowly like blowing cold air under, it was like under my hand, like a ball
Right.
of cold air under my hand that was
Ooh,
resting on the planchette. And as soon as I recognized that feeling of cold air, the girl next to me who had just told me she didn't feel good just bam slumps forward. She had passed out.
oh my god.
And so he was drawing energy from the room because we were asking him, you know, all of these questions. We were asking him to make himself known. We were asking him to knock on things. And we even, when that happened, we were asking him to like physically come in contact with his sister. And she was laying on the ground, and it was like, eh, it
The
looked,
sister was?
yeah, his sister was. Her whole middle body, like
Mhm,
butt, comes up off the ground, and she's just making the craziest noise, like a guttural noise.
mhm.
And then we all had to say, like, okay, like, thank you for showing us you're actually here, but this is scaring us and it's scaring her. And then he like apologized for it all through the Ouija board. Wild, wild
Gosh. You've
experience.
told me this before, and every time is just like, "What?"
Yeah.
It's just as intense as the first time you've told me, and like you said, like, the full story is it just that next level even, of what the heck, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I do get why people are like, there's no way that's real. And I'm like, listen, I wish I didn't see all of the things that I saw, but I
Right?
did.
Mhm.
And so continuing into my adult life, I've kind of determined that my connection to the spiritual realm, world, whatever you want to call it, is through my dreams.
Mhm.
Um, I've had some pretty bizarre dreams, but they all kind of seem to be similar in the sense that in my dreams, I'm experiencing what I would actually see if my physical body was awake in that moment. Like
Right.
the dream with Grandma Hilda, I was seeing our bedroom. I could see you. I reached
Right.
out
You're
and
not
grabbed your
seeing
hand.
your body floating. It's a
Right.
first person point of view kind of
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. And so, one of my more recent things were all at my previous house. And I was my daughter always had to sleep with me on my chest. And
Mhm.
I had fallen asleep with her on my chest. And I happened to look over from where I was actually laying on the couch, and I could see the room that I was sleeping in. And in my doorway, so kind of like you mentioning with the Jim Drive house, it was like a doorway without a door. It was between my dining room and my kitchen. And filling the entire doorway was a man with a buffalo plaid sort of jacket on. And he was massive, like shoulder to shoulder, filled the doorway height wise.
Mhm.
I couldn't see any features of his face. And I said, hello. And the guy just turned and walked down the hallway towards where Blake and Tyler would be. And so, as a mom, I always am like, what the hell was I thinking? But then it's like, what would I have done? Would I have left my daughter alone on the couch if I think a strange man is in my house? Or would I have her with me so I can protect her if I think a
Right.
strange man is in my house?
And I think it's also kind of important to note, like, where that archway kind of thing was, like, 2 steps away from the main entrance door.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, right. So someone, very well,
It
someone
was
could have been
real,
in
yeah.
my house. And so I go down the hallway with Audrey in my hands, and I'm like yelling like, "Hello." And I am looking in all the rooms. So I look in my bathroom, no one's there. I look in the spare bedroom or the kids' bedroom, no one was there. I set Audrey down in bed with Tyler, and I'm like, I think someone's in the house. It's like, and I had him stay with the kids. And I'm just looking through, I looked in the basement, I looked everywhere. There was
Mhm.
nothing. There was no one in the house. And you mentioned our cousin earlier. So he passed away. Actually, they say his autopsy is either March 5th or March 6th that he passed away. And today is March 5th as we're recording this. And we had just lost our friend Jordan 5 months prior. And then we lost our cousin Nathan. And I was really distraught. And I didn't want my children or my husband to see like how truly upset I was. So I was sleeping on the couch and crying myself to sleep. And Nathan Nathan was a stinky guy. Personal hygiene wasn't his thing, and he knew it. Like he totally knew it and owned it. So out of respect,
Yeah, it's not like something we shit on him for, it was just like, "That's Nathan."
yep. And so out of respect for us, Nathan never sat on our couch. Never sat on our couch. He would always take a chair from the dining room table and spin it around, and he would sit facing the living room. And that's kind of how we would all hang out together.
Mhm.
So I was sleeping on my couch. We had a big L shaped couch. And so I was sleeping on the end of the couch where I was facing the dining room. And, this is like days after he had passed. And in my dream, I'm looking into the dining room, and there's Nathan in his chair facing the living room, but his
Mhm.
his arms were on his legs and kind of like slouched, and his head was down.
Mhm.
I just remember calling to him, calling to him, calling to him, and nothing. And then I woke up and the chair was back where it normally was, like pushed into the
Right.
table, and no one was there. And then it was either the next night or the night after, same thing. I had cried myself to sleep and I had a dream where I was looking into the dining room again and there was Nathan in his chair, arms on his knee, head down. And I said, Nathan. And I said, God damn it, Nathan, look at me. And Nathan just picked up his head and looked at me and smirked and just kind of nodded.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and he wasn't there. And I think that was him saying, I'm okay. I think he didn't look at me the first night. I think he felt bad about the circumstances around his death. But it was just such a beautiful moment for me to see him to come visit me and to say goodbye in that way, similar way grandma said bye in my dream.
I do remember you telling me those dreams and, like, when they happened and how visceral they felt, like, how real and almost tangible they felt, and, I mean, not the man in plaid, there was not much, like, personality given from that kind of
No.
appearance, but the, like, actions and the expressions that you shared from your dream of Nathan just is so, like, perfectly him to a T.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, I can just I didn't even have the dream, obviously, but can, like, feel that presence, feel, like, the genuine
Hmm.
yeah, his spirit presenting itself.
And I think it's worth noting too that um, the home that we just sold was almost 100 years old. It was built in 1927. So it's, when we sold it, it was 98 years old.
Mhm. The
Um,
one where you had the dreams.
Yes. And I always felt, on edge or, like the feeling of you shut the light off and you have to walk down the hallway when it's dark and you walk a little extra fast because, it feels like something's behind you. I
Mhm.
always had that feeling there. And since we moved, I don't feel it anymore. And I don't know, this house is much more newly built. This house was built in 1971. So, that other house had nearly 50 years more of history there. And so I don't know, but it's a total different energy that I feel in this
Mhm.
home compared to that home.
Right. And not that, our family has owned the home that you live in now forever, but we've been there for a long time between you and mom and
Yeah.
Ed. But yeah, like having more memories of our own and more
Yeah.
positive memories in the house that you're in now,
Hmm.
I feel like could be like a big contributor to not having that sense of like just an unknown something with you kind of sharing residence in the home.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Um,
I think that's a good point. Of the however old this house is, I'm trying to think of how old mom is. I won't say it. I'll let you do the math. But yeah, like 20 years of this home's existence were with our family. Oh, and a really cool thing I found out too is that people that we know, his grandfather built this house by hand.
oh, for real?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So between that original person who built the home, there was, I think, only one other family who lived here
Oh,
until our
no.
family lived here.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
that
neat.
can make a big difference.
Mhm. Yeah, there's not a whole bunch of, like, mixed energies and emotions and stuff.
Hmm.
I was just kind of I don't know if reminiscing is the right word, but chatting with Gabe about, you living in the house now, and he was asking, like, why we had never moved there before or, about mom moving out and stuff, and I was like, I mean, not that I'm super attached or detached from the house emotionally, but, like, I really love knowing that the memories and, like, the spirits that we have in our lives, like, still have this place as their home too.
Yeah.
Even down to so I was like, Himmy, our little hamster, we buried on the property,
Yeah.
very close to Bandy,
Boogie.
I believe? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right behind the outhouse, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's not there anymore, thankfully. But
Yeah. Um,
and
and
Rex is sitting in here on the stand next to the TV.
yep, and I was telling him that we used to, like, kind of joke, but I felt not, you know, joke, but not totally, like, wave it off as unserious, that Bandit would roam around the kitchen and pop the cupboard doors open, and we would joke that Bandit was coming to visit.
Yeah, it's so cute. Now we come out and like every cabinet door will be open because the cats go in there. And I'm pretty sure they're hunting mice, but it's just kind of like makes all the doors would be open and we'd think it was Bandit. Um, and
Maybe they're
especially his
hunting mice
snack
together.
cabinet.
Maybe they're hunting mice together
Huh? Yeah.
now that he doesn't have to worry about them being as big as he was and, like, fighting him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That between that and the spiders, oh my gosh.
Ugh. Yeah,
I
but
swear
thankfully,
there was a spider as big as Bandit.
oh, there's some big spiders here.
But anyway, it's probably one of the reasons subconsciously I decided to never, uh, entertain the idea of moving to that house permanently.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been in contact with an exterminator. Thinking back to the dream aspect of things, like you said, it, because I've had these hyper realistic dreams that just truly feel like I could reach out and touch that person or interact with them or like I'm falling back into my bed. Um, when I do have other hyper realistic dreams,
Mhm.
sometimes I'll message you and mom just like terrified, like
Yeah,
especially or the dream I had about Dustin and I was like, has anyone contacted Dustin because I don't want this dream to be true.
right.
Um and he was contacted and he was okay. Just having a hard time discerning which of my dreams are real or could or were manifestations of something and
Right.
which are just dreams.
It's hard, and like I said, I've had those, like, deja vu type dreams, but I have the very similar, like, I guess, long form dreams that just feel so vivid, and, like, I'll be messed up for, like, the rest of the day when I wake up
Yeah.
because my body still holds on to those emotions of, like, fear, panic, like, extreme sadness or whatever I was feeling, and will have to, like, go lay on the couch with Nate and just, like, hug him until I can
Yeah.
replace those negative emotions with, like, positive, comforting emotions.
Mhm.
Or, like you said, kind of put hands on the subject of my dream, um, to make sure that that didn't actually happen and that
Right.
it was a dream. And, like, you were talking about your one and only Ouija board experience, as much as I don't even wanna say it out loud partly, I've used Ouija boards with I think mostly it was with Hannah. And, we would kinda play around and stuff. I don't think I ever asked really serious questions, and part of me is thankful, and another part of me almost wants to wish that I had more experiences, but I am so nervous, like, at this point in my life of opening myself up to something that's, like, preying on a
Yeah.
weakness or a vulnerability, of, like, using the Ouija board to seek answers and having some kind of spirit or entity latch onto that
Yeah.
and say, "I'll tell you what you wanna hear,"
Mhm.
whatever that is. And,
Yeah,
now
and
we're on to her life and death and whatever else.
in our Ouija board experience, we closed the session because we talked to all the people who it made sense to talk to, and then all of a sudden this other thing came through,
Hmm.
and it was something that was attached to the property, it said.
Hmm.
And then we said, "Are you good or bad?" And it went to bad.
Nope.
And we were like, "Okay, you are
And then
not
you go,
welcome."
all right, I'm good. Out.
Yeah. We're like, and we were firm. We're like, "You are not welcome here. You are not welcome to continue this session. We are saying goodbye." And we close out the session. And that is why I will never use a Ouija board again.
Hmm.
Am I glad I did it? Yeah, I mean, it was a cool experience. I got some answers. My friends got some answers. It was a really wild experience.
Hmm.
Um, but of all of the positives that came from that, something malicious still tried to come through.
Right.
And it just goes to show, like, you've got to be really, if you are ever going to use one of those tools, you've got to be knowledgeable, and you've got to follow the rules, and you've got to make sure that you're smart about it.
Yeah, like have really set clear intentions,
Hmm.
going into it with like a healthy mind frame, not going into it like troubled and scattered and stuff.
Right.
And even in the best of situations, like there's so many times where you hear of these like nightmare incidents, um,
Hmm.
that I don't think I, like you said, would ever open myself up to that possibility now that I know more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, it's helpful for us in our situation because we do watch, ghost hunters, and we do listen to Two Girls One Ghost and Morbid and all of those, and um just by having exposure to all of these different instances of using these things and really seeing how things can go so wrong is sort of like another reason why we are like, "Oh, okay, pump the brakes on that. I'm not using that."
Lately, I've been wanting to kind of branch out or like put out feelers to open myself up in like specific intentional ways, like kind of learning more about tarot and just kind of things along that line.
I really want to do a past life regression.
That too. And I don't know if I tagged you or meant to send it to you and didn't send it to you about this person who is like, oh no, was it that post that we were both replied to about like the
The rock.
amethyst? And yeah,
Yeah.
I
Which is
saw
really
it.
cool. It was like a blue rock.
Was it?
And
Oh,
we
I
were,
the answer. No, but I saw it on the Witches Brew page, and so only saw the Witches Brew comments, then went to the main post and went to go tag you and saw your comment 1 minute before I was on that
yeah.
page. And I was like, no shit. But also like, of course, because that's the life we lead.
Yeah, always
No,
doing the same stuff.
yeah,
I I think,
unintentionally and
yeah.
um, in spite of each other.
Yeah, we've got weird twin energy for not being twins.
Yeah. Even down to being dressed as twins when we were younger,
Oh gosh.
with grandma like being a
Mhm.
seamstress, knowing how to make clothes and just making us the same dresses and shit, just one slightly larger than the other.
But then remember the day where we went to go get your hand tattoos and we showed up both wearing a Sublime shirt?
Yes. Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of
Weird
quote unquote
synchronicities.
coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
See, we just said it at the same time.
I'm pretty sure we're just two halves of the same being.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
No, but I wanted to kind of branch out, try those things out, or just learn more about them. Also learning about our ancestry and kind of like the
Mm.
Mexican heritage and
I think like Mexican heritage and our native ancestry.
that is I think more of our like indigenous background is I can't remember if it was Aztec or Mayan, but like Mexico region Native American, not
Mhm.
and I don't know if they were ever called or maybe is just like a all-encompassing derogatory term of redskins for like any
Right.
indigenous people. I would like to know where our name comes from.
I think our ties to um, Mexico and our ties to indigenous peoples, I think that is, sort of an explanation for why we are so spiritual.
Mhm,
Um, because those peoples traditionally are very in tune with spirits. And like you think of Mexican culture and celebrating Dia de los Muertos and, recognizing that when your loved ones pass, they aren't necessarily gone, and there's just a small bridge that they can cross over. Like I've got the movie Coco playing in my head.
yeah, yeah.
But
Literally,
they're
like, just a separate realm, a continuation in a different form.
yeah. And native peoples, they have similar beliefs in that when you go, you don't really go. It's your physical body isn't there
Mhm,
anymore, but your spirit is still there. So I think it would be really interesting to find out more about that, and then it would just give us more insight on who we are and why we believe the things that we believe in. And
mhm. Why we're drawn to certain things and just, like, have a natural curiosity or
Mhm.
propensity towards certain topics, and it just feels natural
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we hope that you guys enjoyed listening to our stories and hearing our conversation and getting to know a little bit more about us and get a better, closer look into our weird selves.
Yes. We hope to be around for quite a while sharing, more of our personality, more of our quirks, and I part of, like, the culture that I've picked up from, like, listening to podcasts is, like, having that sense of community of, like, like-minded people or just kind of having similar experiences, and
Yeah,
so I look forward to sharing more about us and hopefully as people become comfortable or hear more about us are open to sharing more of
yeah,
their own stories
yes.
to learn about the world and about the people in it.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder, Mariah. We are looking to hear from you guys and hear some of your stories. So, yeah, we put a call out on social media for you guys to send us in your stories. You can email them to us at asthecrowflies.pod@gmail.com. And it doesn't have to be something that your name is tied to. If
Mhm.
you're kind of like we were at the beginning and you're not comfortable sharing your true authentic weird self, we feel you, and we will respect your anonymity if you so wish to be anonymous. So just let us know in the story. But please, if that's something that's holding you back, don't feel like you have to, give us your first, middle, and last with your social. um,
Yeah.
we'll keep
John
you in.
Doe, Jane Smith,
Yeah, exactly. Or make up a name and yeah,
right?
whatever. We just want to hear from you.
Yep. Just talk to us, please.
Please. Again.
So along with the email address that Desiree shared, I also wanted to debut our website. There is now a one-stop shop, if you will, of all As the Crow Flies information, and that is As the Crow Flies pod. pretty similar to our email. But there you can find links to all of our social media, as well as like our Spotify and some of our other podcast platforms that you can find us on, as well as our forms that we've mentioned a few times. So, specifically, sharing feedback, leaving stories if you would like to, and topic suggestions, even. So, we're pretty early in, obviously. And, if there's something that you are really interested in hearing and haven't heard on another podcast or want to learn more about, and it's something that piques your interest, we would love to know. You can also listen to all of our episodes directly through the website. I was very excited to set that up. So if you don't already have a podcast platform that you use, if you're brand new and just checking us out for the first time, right there as thecrowfliespod.com, you can see all of our episodes, descriptions, sources if you want to dig deeper. Yeah, so we hope you check it out. We hope you reach out to us. At the very least, we just hope you keep listening and stick around.
Yeah, and we also, so Mariah mentioned the Witch's Brew briefly earlier. And so she does a really cool psychic and holistic fair in the Newport area. And so she has one coming up next weekend, I believe March 14th, I think it is. And she was kind enough to try and find space to put our poster up. And so if you happen to be checking out the Witches Brews Psychic and Holistic Fair at the Tasting Center in Newport, you'll see our poster there. And we've also got Men for Magog Press is printing us some stickers. And so you'll see those scattered around the Northeast Kingdom. And we might get some over to Florida too. Our mom works at a bar down in Florida, and so we're going to send her
some to Nina and Tara. We'll cover Texas while we're at it.
So yeah, look out for those. And if you see them, give us a shout out, tag us on social media. The more that people give us shout outs and acknowledge us on social media, the more people who will see us. And even if you're not outwardly weird and putting your weird self out there yet, if you share it and a weird friend sees it, then maybe they'll like it to listen to us too. So everything is appreciated.
The more the merrier.
Well, thank you guys for listening to us, and we hope that you enjoyed.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Oh, toodles.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
I was thinking of mouse tools.
Reach out to us at asthecrowflies.pod@gmail.com with any stories you want to share. And what were you going to say? Sorry, I cut you off.
Couldn't tell you.
Wonderful. Love that.
Yes.